This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net. It is Tuesday, the last Tuesday in September, and it's time for What in the World with Paul Seaburn and his sidekick, Brown's John Donalo.
Oh. Unbelievable.
I love it, guys.
For those of you who are not watching us on YouTube, the Browns won this weekend, so you would be able to tell because John is completely decked out in his Browns gear. He's got Browns signs all over the place. He's a fan. Make no mistake about it. We're glad to have him back. So, but first, we're glad to have all of you back. We're either in your ear or in your eyes. This is What in the World with me, Paul Seaburn, your horse. Wow.
Hey, I love it.
Without we'll edit that out later, right? So, What in the World, everybody's favorite weird news show. Real news, sometimes strange, always funny. That's our motto. We're here every week bringing you the strangest news that I can find around the internet, around the world, around the universe. You name it. If it's weird and if we can make it funny, you can hear about it on What in the World. I'm trying to get out to newclevelandradio.net, which is our platform, courtesy of Karen Hale, who our announcer, our producer, media mogul, all around good person. So come visit us at newclevelandradio.net. That's where you can find out how to download us for free from Spotify and all those other great places. Also on YouTube, please, wherever you go, follow us, like us, do all that good stuff. You can find me on Facebook. Send me messages. I've got a couple of stories this week from some of our regular listeners, so we'll mention that later. We love to get feedback from you. And welcome back, John Donalo. John was on assignment last week, checking out.
Well, please explain the assignment to everyone.
Yeah, he was looking for Bigfoot amongst Civil War ruins. So, how did you do, John? Did you find anything?
I was not successful, unfortunately. Spent several days in Virginia, a lot in the wilderness, so to speak, and unfortunately did not have a chance to come across Bigfoot.
Okay. Well, we've got some photos for you anyway. So let's get right. What am I talking about today? Let's fill everybody in on what's coming up. We've got a juicy world record from India. That's a fun one. A tattoo competition. Oh boy, wait till you see this. From the United Kingdom, a giant watermelon in Iowa. You'll never see a watermelon like this anywhere else in the world. Extreme cheese pulling is a sport, John, believe it or not. Yeah, in England. Some reasons to get a fake belly button. This was a hot story on Facebook last week. We'll talk about that. A sword swallower with the bends. This is way, oh boy, this is, yeah, I know. Let's see. Plus, we got some more news. I've got some couple of more sports, some world records trivia. John is back with another weird sport, really unusual one this week. So let's get right to it. First things first. Since John is back, John was off last week. Your stand-in did a fine job on Bluff the co-host, so you're
so I heard, Paul.
Yeah, you didn't have to study. But John, we were kidding that John was looking for Bigfoot. I hope he was, but if he didn't, I was prepared in case you didn't find Bigfoot. I found a photo of you trying to take a picture of Bigfoot. For the regular listeners know that one of John's basic complaints, and really a complaint of a lot of people, is that the photos of Bigfoot and the photos of UFOs and the Loch Ness Monster, they're always blurry, they're pixelated, they're just, not good, crisp, sharp selfies. So I found a reason, I know John's got an old camera. I found a reason why maybe his photos, he wasn't able to bring us a photo. So let me see if I can bring up this photo of John here. Okay, there's our little logo, and so here's John taking a picture of Bigfoot. Now, this is actually a cartoon of a guy who looks a little bit like John, with a backpack on it, holding his camera, and it says he tries to get his first photographic evidence of Bigfoot, and he's disappointed because Bigfoot is about 2 feet tall. His feet are massive. His feet are longer than Bigfoot is tall. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So I can understand, John, if you wouldn't want to take a picture of that, you wouldn't want to be connected with that at all.
No, not at all. Not at all, Paul and Karen. Really, in audience. No way.
That's right. So, however, a longtime fan of the show, Dan, our John and I, he's our fraternity brother. I went to high school with Dan. Dan loves Bigfoot. Dan went to Montana a couple weeks ago, and he sent me a note. He said, "You're not going to believe this. I was risking my life to get a good clear picture of Bigfoot." And his lovely wife took a picture of Dan, a very dangerous picture of Dan with Bigfoot. So I want to, and it's really clear. So I want to show this picture here. So here's our buddy Dan.
Oh my God.
Standing right next to Bigfoot. Look at that, Karen. Right in front of a speed limit 25 miles per hour sign. So I don't know if Bigfoot runs over there or rides his motorcycle or what, but Dan, for those of you who can't see it, Dan is standing next to a very realistic statue of Bigfoot. And would you say that's a clear photo, John?
Again, Karen and Paul, clearly a very good picture, but again, as we know, unfortunately, he's just a statue. It's not real.
Good picture of a bad Bigfoot, I know. Well, we want to thank Dan for that feedback for us. Keeping an eye out on looking for all things Bigfoot. I also want to do a shout out to my buddy Mark down in Austin. We mention Mark all the time. I went to high school with Mark, and Mark was listening last week, and he heard about the Yellow Pages cologne. I don't think women would want to smell like the Yellow Pages, so it's got to be cologne for men. And he reminded me of our favorite cologne when we were in high school, High Karate. High Karate. John may still have a bottle of that. You never throw anything away. You got any High Karate left, John?
Well, I'd have to really do some digging on that, but there's a good chance I might have a bottle somewhere. I couldn't tell you where though.
I think Paul lost his sound.
All right, I'm back here. Okay.
Okay.
So you don't have any?
No, I may have a bottle around somewhere, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't pinpoint and tell you guys where.
Well, I'll tell you what, it just reminded me of the high school dances we used to have at our high school, and the conglomeration of smells. It smelled like High Karate. It smelled like British Sterling. Smelled a little bit like Aqua Velva. Smelled like Right Guard, sweat, and hormones. All of that in one, with the greatest rock music in the history of rock music. We just had such fabulous dances. We had Joe Walsh. I don't know if I ever talked about that. Joe Walsh actually played at a high school dance in Parma.
Wow.
Yeah. How about that? Back with the James Gang, I believe. So anyways, thank you to everybody for all your feedback. Again, if anybody else wants to be part of the show, but send me a note on Facebook, send something to Karen on newclevelandradio.net. Send John a letter or maybe a carrier pigeon. He'll be.
I'll accept it in any form. Any media. Any media is fine.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So let's see. Let's take a look at what we got here. Okay. So John, we had a sport a while back called boot. It was called boot throwing.
Yes.
Boot throwing. Do you remember that sport?
Yes, I do.
Well, believe it or not, just to show you how legitimate our sports are, the National Plowing Championships, that's what it's called, plowing, were held recently in England. And believe it or not, they set a world record while they were throwing their boots.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, these are attendees at the National Plowing Championships in Ireland. They set a Guinness World Record when 995 people threw Wellington boots up into the air all at the same time. breaking the record of 700 or something. They also set a second record for the most concussions from throwing Wellington boots into the air.
It's a dubious distinction, Paul, there, obviously. Yeah.
Very dangerous sport there. Very colorful, but also very dangerous. If you're wondering what they do with the boots, they actually donated them to needy kids in Ireland, which sounds like a great thing, except for the fact that there were 995 people. So each throwing one boot up into the air. If you divide that by 2, that means one kid only got one boot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was. I thought I saw a photo of a kid with one boot on kicking the butt of the organizer, counting correctly.
You can't blame him. You can't blame him.
I don't. Yeah, I don't blame him at all. Okay, so sticking in with Europe for a second here. Oh, this is unbelievable. Wait do you see that? I'm going to put the photo up here because you won't be able to figure out what it's about. So this is a house with three houses, like townhouses, with solar panels on the roof. So this is in the town of Doorn, Doorn, in the Netherlands, and these 3 houses ordered solar panels, and they had them installed on their roofs, and planes were flying over, and they started complaining about the solar panels. Now, why would they complain about the solar panels? Doesn't look obvious until you learn the Dutch language. And in the Dutch language, the solar panels look like the letters L-U-L. L-U-L in the Dutch language is the word for penis, actually the slang word for penis. So, yeah. So people are flying, the traffic copters, they're flying over and they're seeing penis on the roofs over here. So they're not happy about that. They're, needless to say, they're not happy. The owner in the middle, who didn't want anybody to know his name, he was the last one to get the panels, and he said his shape had to be different. It wasn't intentional, because the panels, some kind of interference with the panels placed around them. I don't know. It sounds like a fake answer to me. But so if the neighbors are upset, who are you going to people up? Or do you sue the sun? Their solar panels. Who do you sue? Reminds me of high school, though. That was Did you say something there, Karen?
Nope.
Oh, okay. I thought I'd say. So this reminds me of high school again. And Dan and Mark will back me up on this. Any of our other high school buddies that are watching the show, or listening. There was a prank when I was a junior in high school. The seniors, we pulled into the parking lot of our high school, and we saw a bunch of seniors on the roof of the building, 3-story building, and they're pointing. And what they were doing was they were pointing cars to park in a certain shape. So we couldn't really tell what they were doing from the ground, but they were telling cars to park in a certain shape. Next thing you know, we've got police, we've got teachers come running out. A traffic helicopter flew over our parking lot and saw that they were spelling out with their cars the words "F-U," the long version of those words. And apparently that's not either legal or kosher in Parma, Ohio, which is where we grew up. So this was serious. I remember a couple of the guys were suspended, and graduation was that weekend. So they actually missed graduation. They had to explain to their parents the reason, and their guests at the party, the reason why they missed graduation was for spelling "F-U" with their cars in the parking lot. Did you do anything like that, John?
No, I was pretty tame, actually, believe it or not. I wanted to make sure I could graduate, and I was always towing the line, although sometimes I didn't want to, but I pretty much did.
That doesn't. Everybody who knows John knows that that's a true statement right there. Okay. All right. So we moved to India. Boy, we're going all over the world today on What in the World. So this man from India set a Guinness World Record in a surprisingly competitive competition. His name is Faiz Nazar, and he finished a Capri Sun drink. Now, that's those little foil bags that all the little kids love to drink. He drank an entire container in 8.02 seconds, just barely over 8 seconds, making him the first person to ever drink a Capri Sun in under 10 seconds. So he knocked 2 seconds off the record. Yeah.
And what did he get for it?
He got a really pinched in face from
Okay.
It took him another 10 seconds for his face to relax. To be honest with you, Karen, he got a certificate from the Guinness people.
Okay.
But believe it or not, in that 8 seconds, he had to have his hands on the table. When the buzzer went off, he had to grab the bag, peel the straw off, jam the straw into that little hole, and suck all the juice out. And he still managed to do it in 8 seconds. 8 seconds, it takes me longer to decide what flavor Capri Sun I
Yeah.
Also, it takes you a long time to really just be able to insert the straw, right? I mean, a lot of times it never goes in smoothly. At least
exactly.
Yeah.
I think his first attempt, he missed the hole. so they allowed him to do it again, which is but now. So why Karen's other question is always, if they didn't do it for money, why did they do it? This guy has set a number of other world records. He holds the world record for the fastest time for eating 80 grams of watercress, which he ate in 37 seconds. 80 grams is a couple of pounds. He also has the fastest time for peeling and eating 3 clementines, those little tiny oranges. He peeled and ate 3 clementines in 30 seconds, which sounds like a long time. I would have just swallowed it down, but I think, it seems like that's a long time to peel those little oranges. And he also holds the most hula hoop rotations on one arm in 1 minute. 274 times he spun a hula hoop around on his arm. Yeah.
He doesn't have time to have a job.
I tell you, Karen, you're reading my mind. What he needs time for is a girlfriend, and then he won't be doing any of this stuff anymore. But honestly, you're right. How does salad bars, he should work at a salad bar, because they always have a ton of watercress at the end of the day. They could pay him to come in and eat their watercress. Although, John, are you a watercress fan? You're not
I have to say, I am not.
That doesn't surprise me either. Okay. Unless they were deep fried, buffalo style watercress.
Oh, Lord.
I'm hungry now. All right. So now we go to England, and here's another competition. This guy's name is Mark Owen Evans. Now, Mark Owen Evans has been in the Guinness World Records before for having his daughter's name tattooed on his back 267 times. So he held the record for the most tattoos of a single name on one body. Now, you say, big deal. His daughter's name is D, so it's just a D. Now, for those of you watching, I already blew the joke there. His daughter's name is Lucy. And his back is covered with Lucy, all in the same script handwriting, 267 times. So somebody, believe it or not, there's another yokel who thinks, oh, I'm going to have more of one name tattooed on my back. So in 2020, he was dethroned by a woman, a 27-year-old woman, Deidre Vigil, who had her own name, Deidre, tattooed on her body 300 times. I couldn't find a photo of that. I know, John, you would have liked to see that.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
So this guy, he gets all upset because he lost the record. So he goes back to a tattoo. First, he had to find space on his body, and he decided to get his legs tattooed.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he has on each leg, he spent 5.5 hours at the tattoo parlor to get 400 more tattoos, 200 on each leg. So he now holds the new title 667 times the name Lucy
Oh my
is,
gosh.
is on his body. Now, most of them are on his legs, which reminded me of that song by the Beatles, Lucy on His Thighs with Diamonds. Remember that one? But the poor guy, he can't walk. He looks like he rode a horse 667 times because he's got these tattoos on his legs. He can't rub his thighs together. It's awful. I mean, why anybody would do something like this, I have no idea.
Well, you know what though, Paul and Karen, an audience, he does have a world record, I guess. So.
Oh wow!
What price glory, right? What price glory? I don't know.
Those of you who can't see the photo, and I mean the photo of his tattoos is interesting, but he's holding his previous world record, and he doesn't appear to have any clothes on, and he's got a baby next to him, and he's got his certificate. I think we'll move on from this one, right?
Okay. Good idea, Paul.
Okay, we're going to Iowa. We're back to the good old US of A here, to Muscatine, Iowa. Muscatine, Iowa, which just picked up their own world record for the world's largest watermelon sculpture. We'll take a look at it right here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this sculpture is so big, they had to bring it in on a train. So you can see the train in the background. The watermelon is being held up by a crane as it's lowered onto the pedestal where it will be. In Riverside Park. So if you're in Iowa and you want to go visit it, in Riverside Park, 40 feet long, 16 feet tall, 16,000 pounds. To make it even more realistic, they have a catapult right next to it where you can throw giant watermelon seeds like you're spitting them out. So Karen, why on earth would they do this, you ask?
Yes, why?
It turns out Muscatine, Iowa is the watermelon capital of the world, not just of the United States, of the world. It's a long explanation. They're on the Mississippi River, and way back when, somehow the Mississippi changed directions and left Muscatine with all this great soil and silt and stuff. So they're able to grow all kinds of vegetables. And one of the vegetables they grow is watermelon. So that's how they became the watermelon capital of the world. I thought, if you're the watermelon capital of the world, you have to have a sports team with a watermelon as your mascot. And I looked, and they do not. So I thought, yeah. But guess what, John? This is for you. There is actually a team in the United States with a watermelon as their mascot. And that team is the Rocky Ford Meloneers in Rocky Ford, Colorado. And here's their, I thought I had their mascot. I guess I don't have their mascot. They call themselves the Meloneers. And it's this big muscular watermelon is there. I don't know what they'd say. Yeah, go melons, go, 2, 4, 6, 8. Who taste really great. I don't know. So they supported local businesses with this watermelon. The Silverhawk Fabrication Company in Muscatine, big metal fabrication company, they built it. Okay, so they supported the builders. It was designed by a local artist, Johann Umana. So he participated. It was hauled to the site after they took it off the train. It was hauled to the site by the Bob Crane Service and Equipment Rental Company. Now, John, if you're like me, when I heard the name Bob Crane, I didn't think of a hauling service. I thought of an actor. What was he famous for?
Oh, yes. In fact, he was Major Hogan in Hogan's Heroes.
Yep.
That's right. Colonel Hogan. Unless he got promoted. He may have gotten promoted by the end. Karen knew that one. I could see her nodding there. Yeah, Bob Crane from the Hogan's Heroes. Believe it or not, I looked him up to make sure, and I found some trivia that I did not realize about Bob Crane. He started out as a DJ, and he moved to Los Angeles. He was the #1 morning show DJ in Los Angeles while he was there working in radio, and decided he wanted to become an actor. So he went into acting, a good place to be, 1960, and ended up on Hogan's Heroes. How did he die? He was bludgeoned to death in Scottsdale, Arizona, while he was performing at a dinner theater. Now, not during the show, but while he was in his hotel, he was bludgeoned to death. And what they found out is that he was involved in all kind of nefarious activities, and they believe that one of his partners decided to eliminate him before he got eliminated himself. So terrible ending to one of my favorite actors, Bob Crane. He had. Now, going back to Hogan's Heroes, do you remember the name of Colonel Klink's secretary? John, do you remember? No?
Helga or Hilda?
Oh, very good. She had the buxom blonde. There were two of them, and you got them both right. There was one name was Helga, and then she left, and she was replaced by Hilda. Turns out Bob Crane, while he was married, had affairs with with the actresses who played Helga and Hilda. But they never suspected his wife or his former wife as his murderer. But little bit of weird trivia there for you for your next bar competition. How did Bob Crane die? How did Colonel Hogan die? Okay, so we love talking about weird sports here, weird competitions. John, I know you've done this. You didn't realize you were participating in a sport. The sport is called cheese pulling. Cheese pulling is a competition where you take a slice of pizza out of the pie, and then you see how long you can stretch the cheese before it breaks. And this is a huge thing on TikTok right now, which I know John's not on TikTok, but maybe you need to get on TikTok, because you could. I mean, I know you're good at this.
One of the few things I'm good at. But
there you
go. No, wait a minute. That's brand news to me. Brand new news. I never heard of this, Paul, about this competition.
Trust me, neither did I until I found this story. So you use pizza, or the other way you do it, and this is where the story came from, is you stick a nacho, like a tortilla chip, into a bowl of nacho dip, and you pull it out, and you see how long it'll stretch. Now that's a tougher one right there. Well, this world record was just set for the highest cheese pull, and it was set by Doritos themselves, the people who make the world's most popular tortilla chip. Now, let me show you what this looks like. So what they did, it cost them a lot of money. First, they built a giant bowl of nacho dip. Now, this bowl is 16 feet by 14 feet wide. No, 16 feet wide in diameter, 14 feet deep, filled with 265 pounds of cheddar and mozzarella cheese. Now, above this is a helicopter, and the helicopter was holding a giant tortilla chip. But before I talk about the tortilla chip, take a look at the bowl of nacho. They covered it with fake jalapenos, giant. They're the size of tires, and giant chips to make it look like it was a bowl. I mean, fake jalapenos is illegal in Texas. I know that from living there. But I had to use real ones.
Wow.
So this was a picture of the chip that was already dipped. This chip is 4 feet per side, triangular, and so they dipped it in, and they lifted it 49 feet into the air before the cheese snapped. 49 feet. I think I might have a photo of that here. There we go. Look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Feet up in the air. Yeah, unbelievable. So this guy, I don't know who this guy is. He's somebody from Doritos, might be the CEO. Holding his Guinness World Record certificate. He could be at the factory helping those poor workers who are working, slaving for minimum wage, making Doritos. But no, he's out here doing this nonsense. Anyway, they set a second record when 25 people burned their tongues trying to eat the hot cheese.
Oh, boy.
And they had another record too. It took over an hour for them to refill the bowl after the bowl of chips after the waiter took the first one. Anyway, the Doritos. So this was sponsored by Doritos, made by Frito-Lay. You probably knew that. In 1966, Doritos became the first tortilla chip available nationally in the United States. We didn't know what tortilla chips were before 1966. I'm sorry. The first flavor, and they've got a ton of flavors: ranch, Cool Ranch, Psychic Ranch, Volcanic Ranch. So in 1966, the first flavor was toasted corn. How boring is that?
Yeah, very pedestrian. Very pedestrian.
Yeah. Then they came up with taco. Okay, in 1967, and then nacho cheese came out in 1972. I think we talked about this once on the show. They Frito-Lay stole the idea. Well, actually, they bought the idea from a restaurant at Disney World down in Florida that was a Mexican restaurant that was serving the chips, and they thought, what a cool idea. We can make billions of dollars instead of this guy down here selling them for, $1 a bowl. So they bought it from him. The term Dorito, the name Dorito, comes from the Spanish word doradito, which means little fried golden thing. Now, John, if I remember correctly, when we used to go on spring break, we used to see a lot of little fried golden things while we were on the beach. They weren't chips, if I remember correctly.
Well, yeah, that's I understand and remember the connection well now.
The little double entendre there. Okay, so what do people remember the most about Doritos besides the taste? The fact that they are the second most popular commercials during the Super Bowl. Second most popular. They are just the most creative. Always, every year, there's 2 or 3 of them. They're only number 2. Number 1 reason, the reason why people watch the Super Bowl. Number 1 reason why people watch the Super Bowl is, of course, the halftime show. At least people in Cleveland, the number 1 reason is watching the halftime show, because we never watch to see the Browns. Although, John, I don't know. I hope you're not jinxing them by putting that Browns.
I don't think so. Things could be different this year, Paul and Karen and audience. We'll have to see.
That's right. We'll put our plug. In fact, let's get our team plugs in here. We're about halfway through the show here. We get our plug in for the Browns. Also, our plug for the Dallas Wings. Still in the playoffs, I think. And they play tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So go Wings. Let's. We've adopted them. Our WNBA team out of Dallas. Great team. Great bunch of players. Great coaching staff. Women's basketball is a really great form of basketball. I enjoy watching it more than.
And they have a great merchandising team.
Oh,
I know the person who leads it.
You better believe it. That's right. If you need your Dallas Wings paraphernalia, bobblehead dolls and sweatshirts and underwear, I don't know what else they sell.
Let's go Wings.
Go Wings. Yes.
That's right. Go Wings. Okay. All right. So, this is speaking of fashion. This is a hot new fashion trend from China. This is for you, John. This is, although it started among young women in China, what they're doing is they're applying fake belly button stickers onto their stomachs above their real navel. And the reason why they're doing this is so that they can hide their real navel with their pants. So pull their pants up a little bit and have the fake navel above it. And what they say is it makes their torsos look shorter and their legs look longer. To make these fake belly buttons look even more authentic, they also recommend that you put a little glue on them so you get some navel lint and stuff like that stuck to them.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. Here it is. Here's a lovely lady with not an ugly belly button, and above it she has her belly button sticker, and she's about to cover her real navel with her skirt. If you want the fake ones to look like an Audi, you have innies and outies. If you want it to look like an Audi, you get it, chew up some gum and stick a wad of gum underneath it.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Or this is what I think you should do, is take the fake belly button and put it on your back. So you got one on the front and one on your back. And then you go out on a date and you tell them that you were a Siamese twin at one time.
Some kind of explanation.
So these belly buttons, it turns out they're considered more visually pleasing than the natural ones. So that's why some of these girls are wearing them. Some people consider the belly button ugly, so they cover them up. Guys, we don't have this problem. We don't care what our belly buttons look like. If we had our way, we would like to have belly buttons that stretched out big enough that we could put a beer can in there. And it would be perfect to watch the Browns game, right, John?
Yeah.
You could do that, I guess, if you had that opportunity. I don't know.
Or use it as an extra pocket. If you got some extra stuff you want to carry it.
Some utility out of it, right?
Or now this is the one that I like. If you could train your belly button to grip things, to grab onto things, you could use it in the car. You could use your belly button to grab onto the steering wheel and drive, and that would free up your hands. You could eat. You could, look.
You could eat Doritos.
You could eat Doritos. That's right. You could change be eating your Doritos with one hand, changing the radio with the other hand, and driving with your belly button. So the believe it or not, there's also a Chinese tradition. The Chinese believe that in traditional medicine, that the lower abdomen, where your belly button is, must be kept warm to preserve the overall health of the body. So they're saying that these people are not only are they being fashion conscious, but they're also making their body healthier by covering up their belly button, by keeping their bellies warm. So John, one of these days we're going to be really healthy, from pulling our pants up underneath our armpit.
Yeah, Paul, I like the way you phrased that though. One of these days, not
one of these days. That's right.
One of those days. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, no, we don't do that yet, right? Okay. This is an interesting world record. Well, a lot of world records today. So this one comes from I think the United States. So this is an Australian shepherd by the name of Dockery. Good name for a Dockery. She set a Guinness World Record. He removed 21 socks from the feet of volunteers in 1 minute. So we have probably about 10 or 12 girls here, young ladies, and the male dog, we're going to get a little kinky here. Male dog is running up and down, pulling the socks off of them as each one holds up her foot. This is a great idea for podiatrists, especially shy ones, that don't want to pull the socks off of their patient. You have the dog come in, and dog pulls it off. Everybody has a good time. What did I think of, John? I thought of our friend of the show, Bill Z, who both of us know used to come to visit us over at Joe Max Donuts.
Sure.
He could get one of these. This would be perfect for him. Bill is a podiatrist, for those of you.
He's a long-time practicing podiatrist. Yes, he is.
Yeah. He could get on America's Got Talent, one of the things that I would suggest for the owner of Dockery is to check his doghouse, because I have a feeling that all of the missing socks in the United States are in his doghouse right now.
Yep.
Australia, I guess maybe it's in Australia. I don't know. Anyways, okay. Now, Karen, this is for you. I know I had a lot of stories for John, but this one is specifically for you. For regular listeners know that Karen has a dream job that she has always wanted to have, and we've talked about it many times on the show. That dream job is to drive the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we've talked about the Wienermobile being in Cleveland and doing all kinds of stuff. We had some bad news recently when Oscar Mayer announced that the Wienermobile was going to be renamed and called the All Beef Frankmobile in honor of this new line of hot dogs that are made from all beef. Karen, the outcry was enormous. there were so many people who hated this idea that it was no longer the Wienermobile. It was now it was the Frankmobile, that the pressure got to Oscar Mayer, and they announced this week that they're changing the name back to the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Yes.
Yeah, you do get the job. You'll be driving a Wienermobile.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah. So what they said was, and I heard this rumor, they were going to repaint them, but they're just going to get new Wienermobile. One of the Frankmobiles is going to be going to Rome, where they're going to give it to Pope Francis for a surprise birthday.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, sure. Can you see the Pope riding around in a Frankmobile?
Yes.
So they asked the CEO of Oscar Mayer why they did this. And this is a direct quote. He said, the Frankmobile didn't cut the mustard. He should be on our show. I said, I could have written 3 more lines for him. Never sausage negative feedback. Never sausage negative feedback. It was.
We get it, Paul. We understand.
Yeah, here's another one. I know he wouldn't like that one either. They lost so much business that now they have to catch up to the competition. And there was actually a real car that was based on sausages. It was a Subaru Brat. I don't know if you remember that, B-R-A-T. Everybody pronounced it Brad. In Cleveland, we called it the Brat because B-R-A-T is a Brat. That's
sure.
You still see them. They weren't that popular. Little pickup truck. How are we doing on time here? Okay, I want to get the flamingo story in here. So flamingos are leaving Florida because of the hurricanes. Believe it or not, they're flying north. I think we did a story a couple of weeks ago. Flamingos were spotted in Ohio, around Cincinnati, around the Ohio River. Well, they've kept on going, and flamingos were seen in Wisconsin this week. 5 flamingos were seen at Port Washington on Lake Michigan in Wisconsin. First sighting of flamingos in Wisconsin state history. And the people there, they didn't know what to do. I think I have a photo of the flamingos. Here they are. The gray ones are young flamingos that haven't become pink yet. So people in Wisconsin, they'd never seen live flamingos. They didn't know what to do. So what they did was they got some cheese. They got plenty of cheese, and they tried to lure the flamingos to their houses and have them stand in their front yard. They thought, that's where they've seen flamingos. Karen, do you have a flamingo in your front yard?
They're not allowed in our subdivision.
They're not allowed.
No.
Not allowed. That's un-American. That's
yeah.
Anyways, so more flamingos are coming up. I'm waiting for a big showdown, especially in Ohio, between the flamingos and the Canadian geese. I think I'd pay to watch a fight between flamingos and Canadian geese. I'll put that on pay-per-view. But the real reason why they flew to Wisconsin, turns out in 2009, the city of Madison, Wisconsin, designated the plastic flamingo as the city's official bird. So they should fly.
Wow.
They should fly to Madison because that's where they know what to do with flamingos. The plastic flamingo, Karen, by the way, if you could have one in your front yard, was invented in 1957 by an American artist. His company made plastic stuff or formed plastic things. So they became the first providers of plastic flamingos. They became famous in 1972 when John Waters came out with a movie that is the absolute most disgusting movie you'll ever see, called Pink Flamingos. Just don't go to see the flamingos. Rent it. It's John. Have you ever seen Pink Flamingos?
Oh, I have not.
It's not your kind of movie. I know it's not Karen's kind of movie. Absolutely disgusting. My kind of movie. Okay, one more. We want to talk about the sword swallower, professional sword swallower, Heather Holliday. There aren't many female sword swallowers. She was one of the first in the business. She just set a 2 world records. And I've got a photo here because it's so hard to believe. First world record, she swallowed the record for the longest neon tube swallowed. 21.4 inches, almost a 2-foot long neon light bulb. And you can see it, she's got it lit up, so it's plugged in, and she's swallowing it in this photo. Her second, and this is even more strange, second record, the largest curve in a sword swallowed while seated, 90-degree sword. So basically this sword bends completely in the opposite direction, and she laid down on the ground and swallowed the sword. Now, I've seen people do this standing up. She is the first person to ever swallow a curved sword laying down. She set a third record, by the way, with the best reason for calling in sick with a stomach ache. I was busy this weekend practicing for my world record of swallowing light bulbs, and so she loves doing it. She started when she was 13 years old. This position, by the way, is called the mermaid position. So kids don't try this at home, because you won't end up like a mermaid. You'll end up like a fillet of fish sandwich.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And sword swallowing isn't her only trick. She also practices regurgitation, which means she swallows like metal balls and objects.
Oh.
Yeah. This is, hey,
girls ball.
John, this is our sport right here. We could get on America's Got Talent. I mean, drink enough Diet Coke, you'll regurgitate anything.
Oh my God.
Something we can compete in. And on that note, speaking of competition, we welcome back John Dinalo, the host of What in the World of Sports. Every week, should I? Oh no, I've got some photos for John here. So every week I ask John to come up with a strange sport that fits in the theme of real sports, sometimes strange, always funny. And John always manages to find something truly strange, truly odd, sports we've never heard of, sports that maybe we would compete in, sports that we would never compete in. I think this might be one of them. And we just have such a good time. So we missed the sport last week. So John, why don't you introduce your sport for this week? I've got your photos all lined up for you.
Oh,
so take it away.
Sounds good, Paul. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks, Karen, also. So our sport this week will have you dreaming about living in the Old West and sitting around the campfire eating beans.
Oh, blazing saddles. Yeah.
Let me explain.
I dream about that all the time. Okay.
The name of this sport is chuck wagon racing.
Wow.
Now you heard that correctly, chuck wagon racing.
Okay.
This is a real sport in which 4 chuck wagons pulled by thoroughbred horses race around a track. However, to give the race a feel of the Old West, instead of a starting gate, cowboys called outriders break camp by throwing 2 tent poles and a barrel representing a camp stove into the back of their wagon. Then they mount their horses and follow the chuck wagon, which is driven by another cowboy in the front seat who's yelling, "Yeehaw!" I'm not making this up. No, wait.
Well, no, you can't. We're looking at a picture of it right here. We're looking at this looks like it's at a racetrack, but I thought it was interesting that before they even get started, they pretend like they're cowboys and breaking camp and throwing the stuff into the wagon. I think that's pretty cool. So continue.
It's got its own flavor for sure, guys.
Boy.
So the chuck wagons, they have to compete, or they have to complete a figure 8 around 2 barrels before circling the racetrack. So that's another part of the event is, again, these wagons have to complete a figure 8 around the 2 barrels before circling the racetrack. The first wagon to cross the finish line typically wins, unless various time penalties are handed out for infractions such as a barrel being knocked over, a tent pole or stove not being loaded properly, wagon interference, or an outrider crossing the finish line, believe it or not, too far behind his wagon driver. So that's a
Wow.
specific
Wow.
rule that, again, you have to abide by to be able to win the competition. Now,
Huh.
you may wonder as to how did this come about, or how did this even get started? The first time chuck wagon races were held as a spectator sport was held exactly 100 years ago at the 1923 Calgary Stampede. Chuck wagon drivers and crews competed for a grand total of $275 in prize money. In comparison, in 2009, the total purse available to the racers was $1.15 million.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. All of
Now-
a sudden, I'm interested.
Right. The first professional chuck wagon racing circuit was sanctioned in 1949 by the Cowboys Protective Association. And this association is the forerunner to the current World Professional Chuck Wagon Association, which sanctions all professional rodeo and chuck wagon races throughout Canada, and also including the Calgary Stampede.
Wow.
Wow.
The sport is most popular in the prairie provinces of Canada, and the most famous chuck wagon race in the world is held annually at the Calgary Stampede, where the total prize money for the 10-day event exceeds $2 million.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Karen, I know you're always interested in associations.
Yes,
So-
I am.
Other governing bodies include the Canadian Professional Chuck Wagon Association, or the CPCA, and also the Western Chuck Wagon Association. Now, besides the Calgary Stampede, chuck wagon racers compete on the GMC Pro Tour, which has a 10-event season with events that are held throughout Alberta and also British Columbia.
Wow.
Now, while the sport's popularity is greatest in the Canadian prairies, chuck wagon racing has been held in conjunction with many rodeos across North America, not just Canada, but also in the US. Chuck wagon racing, to me, sounds like a fun sport that brings the flavor of the Old West to modern times. But I don't think we'll ever see it in Cleveland. The first time your chuck wagon hits a Cleveland chuck,
Okay.
even the horses.
Chuck wagon racing. I can't believe it. I am up chucking here. I can't
Oh,
believe
that's,
it.
that's exactly right, Paul. The first time your chuck wagon hits a Cleveland chuck hole, even the horses will be up chucking.
Jeez. I'm sorry, I lost my sound here. You're cutting out in. I'm gonna try something here, and all right, we're coming back. Not coming back.
All
How's
right.
that?
Can you hear us? We can hear you.
We can hear you fine.
Okay. Wow, unbelievable sport there. Chuck wagon racing. I'm trying to remember if I went to a few rodeos while I lived in Texas. I'm sure that they had something similar, but the photos of this looks, there's dust flying all over the place. The horses are nothing like we ever saw at Thistledown or Northfield Track
No.
or any of
No,
the race
definitely.
in Cleveland. Yeah, wow, and how many $2 million in purses? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
But you got to pay for all that food in the chuck wagon.
Yeah, all those beans. Well, so I'm sure many of you are saying I've never heard anything like this. I didn't think they were still using chuck wagons. I felt the same way, but then I went digging through some old photos, and it turns out John, as always, holds out on us. John is well versed in the sport of chuck wagon racing. He just doesn't like to talk about it. And I found an old photo of John competing. This may have been at Thistledown, right down the street here at the racetrack at Cleveland, Ohio. Here's a photo of John chuck wagon racing. There you go.
Oh, I like that, John. Like
what
your
that is,
outfit.
we're looking at a photo of a man, a loose resemblance to John, in a wagon behind 4 miniature horses, the tiniest little horses I've ever seen in my life. Looks like more fun to me than the big chuck wagon racing.
I think the big chuck wagon racing, I think, is very challenging and very.
Yeah. We when we lived in Texas, we used to live near a convent, in a ice cream factory. So we would take people to visit the ice cream factory, and the convent was right next door. Why did we go to the convent? Because they raised miniature horses, and they used to have little wagons that they pulled the nuns around in, believe it or not.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I'd have no longer there for sadly, but anyways, chuck wagon racing. I can't believe it. The big sport in Canada, soon to be coming to a rodeo near you in the United States. As always, John, great sport. Thanks. Welcome back. And thanks for bringing back such a great sport.
Oh, thanks, Paul and Karen. Thanks, audience. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. So let's see. I'm not going to, maybe I'll try this. Okay, there we go. All right. So we finished with sport. That means it's time for Bluff the co-host, everybody's favorite weird news game. Real simple rules. I have 3 stories. They unlike the ones that I've been telling all afternoon, which are true, multiple sources, all that good stuff. These may be true, they may be bluffs, and it's up to Karen and John and those of you playing at home to decide which are real and which are bluffs. Wagering is allowed, so place your bets. Karen and John, hand on the buzzer, and let's get to story number 1. In Mexico, no one escapes from the law, even if they're a puppet. Police in Mexico City recently arrested a man who was scaring children in a park with an orange-haired Chucky doll from the movie Child's Play. But the kids weren't satisfied until the cops arrested Chucky too. The cops handcuffed the Chucky doll, put him in the police car, perp walked him into the station, took mugshots, and even fingerprinted the doll's plastic hands before locking him up in a cell next to his partner, who claimed that Chucky was actually the brains of the team. This is not Chucky's first offense. He was arrested a few years ago in Brazil for scaring people in public. Same charge. Mexicans are hoping the cops are serious this time and put this Chucky in prison once and for all. Okay, so story from Mexico City. A man with a Chucky doll is harassing the public. In addition to arresting him, they arrested the Chucky doll and locked him up. What do you say, Karen? Real or bluff?
Wow. Up until, the processing point, you had me as real. But I'm going to say this is a bluff.
Okay, Karen says it's a bluff. John, how about you?
Well, I'm going to go against the grain on this one. I'm going to say it's true, given the fact that anything is possible these days. And I just think that I could see a police department doing something like this, especially for the children. The children are not safe or don't believe they're safe unless, again, the Chucky doll is behind bars. So I'm going to say it's true.
Okay, Chucky's behind bars. All right. Mexico's most wanted, Chucky arrested. So John says that's a real story. Karen says it's a bluff. Let's check with the judges. And the judges say, congratulations, John, that is a real story. And you are absolutely right. And in fact, the cops were reprimanded, for trying to do a good thing for the kids by locking Chucky up.
Sure.
So,
okay.
Yeah, John's on a roll again this week.
Okay.
Right, okay. Okay.
Nothing. Let's get right to story number 2. They may not like Old Yeller or Turner and Hooch, but dogs love Paw Patrol, according to an outdoor theater in Los Angeles, which was showing the movie Paw Patrol, the Mighty Movie, and decided to let attendees bring their dogs for a special showing. They ended up with 219 dogs, which not only set a new world record for the most dogs at a movie, but also caused the concession stand to run out of popcorn. All of the dogs in the audience had to stay until the end so they could set the record. So they were lucky that the outdoor theater was next to some trees. for those with small bladders. Everybody, including the dogs, agreed the movie was a howling good time. Okay, John, we'll go to you. World record set in Los Angeles for the most dogs at a movie, and the movie was a Paw Patrol movie. What do you say, real or bluff?
Part of me wants to believe that this is a true story, but I just think it's too outrageous. How can you have 219 dogs like in one area and then not leaving? And I'll just sitting watching Paw Patrol. I think it's a bluff.
Have you ever watched Paw Patrol, John?
Maybe not in its entirety, okay, but
not in its entirety. You saw it as you were flashing through stations. I know.
Right, I may have caught a little bit of it, but I don't think would have kept my attention, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right. So John says it's a bluff. Karen, how about you?
Well, I'm going to go against John on this one because I think it would be a great gimmick for somebody, for a theater to pull off. And people take their dogs everywhere today. So I'm going to say it's true.
Okay, Karen, you're absolutely right. People do take their dogs everywhere. So Karen said that it's true that an outdoor theater in Los Angeles showing Paw Patrol, the movie, allowed dogs to come in and they set a world record at the same time. John says that's a bluff. Let's check with the judges. And the judges say the score is now tied 1-1. Karen, you're right. That is
Karen, way to
go. and you're right, Karen. I think it'd be a great idea. They should do it at Blossom. We have that big outdoor concert venue.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah,
see, keep your dog in your car. That's the thing I liked.
Right. Okay. All right. So scores tied 1-1. That means points are doubled in round number 3. But with anything goes here. Whoever gets the right answer, we have a winner. So let's get right to story number 3. We don't know if androids dream of electric sheep, but a greenhouse in Greece found out that real sheep dream of getting high on marijuana. A farmer growing medical marijuana in his greenhouse woke up recently to find that a small flock of sheep broke in the night before and ate over 600 pounds of his pot plants. He said the sheep tried to act normally and pull the wool over his eyes, but he knew they were pretty flocked up because they were staggering around and trying to break into a cabinet where his workers store their snack foods. He's hoping that the sheep's owner pays for the pot with the profits he makes from selling marijuana-infused mutton. Okay, so the sheep that broke into a greenhouse in Greece and ate 600 pounds of medical marijuana. What do you say, real or bluff? Karen, we'll go to you.
I'm going to say this is a bluff and that you are a very good writer.
Okay, I thank you for the compliment, and Karen says it's a bluff. John, how about you? What do you say, real or bluff?
Yeah, that's a staggering amount of marijuana. I'm going to say it's a bluff also.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we have agreement here. Both Karen and John say there's no way that sheep could eat 600 pounds of medical marijuana. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say, they actually did break into the greenhouse and eat 600 pounds of marijuana. Yeah, he had it all set. He was getting ready to harvest. So he knew exactly how much he had. The poor guy was wiped out by these sheep, and the sheep were wiped out by the marijuana. So you can imagine.
I mean, so whatever happened to the sheep? I mean, were they alive after all this happened, or what?
They said they were staggering around. Some were laying on the ground, looking for Doritos. They were just
or Oscar Mayer wieners, either one.
Oscar Mayer wieners, that's right. Any kind of snack food to fix the munchies. That's it. All right. Wow. We've reached the end of another great episode of What in the World. I want to thank Karen Hale, our producer, co-host, media mogul at newclevelandradio.net. Thank you for all you do for all of us at New Cleveland Radio, for us at What in the World. Please visit newclevelandradio.net. Find out how to download us, and then also take a look at some of the other great podcasts. Take a listen to all the other great podcasts that Karen has. Something for everybody. So please check that out, newclevelandradio.net. As always, thank you, John Dinalo, What in the World of Sports with John, also a great color commentary co-host all around good guy. Welcome back. Glad you had a great trip. And go Browns.
Oh,
And-
sounds good, Paul. Thanks. Thanks. Go Browns.
And
Right,
I
and
just want to make this announcement that I would relish if anyone has connections to the Oscar Mayer Wiener, I want to drive it. So,
Oh,
please
man.
do your job.
There you go. And Karen, just to show how much she wants to, she said she would relish it. She would
I
relish
would.
Good choice of words, Karen. Good choice of words there.
That moves your resume up one notch on the list. So also thank you to everybody listening, watching, however you're partaking of What in the World. Thank you so much. You're the reason why we do the show every week. We have a good time, but we hope that in us having a good time, we pass it on to you and you have a good time as well. Stay away from the bad news. Stick with the strange news from What in the World. On that, go Wings! Go Wings tonight. I hope they win. Yeah, and I think we'll catch up on all of those sports stores next week. In the meantime, we'll say bye-bye for this week.
Bye, everybody.